Blog Talk Radio.
When you're born in this world, you're given a ticket to the freak show.
It's reminiscent of those pictures we've all seen too much on television before, when a building was deliberately destroyed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down.
And when you're born in America, you're given a front row seat.
So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents.
Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't.
There is no America. There is no democracy.
You have no choice. You have owners. They own you.
There is only IBM and ITT and AT&T and DuPont, Dow, Union Carbide, and Exxon. Those are the nations of the world today.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
Do you know how naive you sound?
Why?
Senators and presidents don't have men killed.
Oh. Who's being naive, Kay?
They got you by the balls.
This here is The Adamizer. Welcome to Front Row at the Freak Show. I'm assuming our host is having technical difficulties at the moment and that he'll be right with us. Today's topic is the economy. Isn't that a lovely thing? Don't we always tackle just the best topics that are out there? What was it? Religion last week, and today we're going to talk a little capitalism, a little communism, a little state of the American economy, and we're going to learn a lot, I hope. That's what we're here to do. Stay informed, stay righteous, stay cool. So, I guess while I'm waiting for the host, I will just let you know we are here on blogtalkradio.com. For those of you listening, you probably already know that, but station identification is always a good thing. And I see him typing from my co-host, but no, I can't hear you, brother. If you want to maybe log off and try back again, we can do that. So, I wasn't prepared with an intro, as you can imagine. And now I'm gone. I'm still here. I'm sorry. It's the... Not sure what's going on, but I'm sure I'll have it straightened out in just a minute. My apologies to our listening audience. And again, I'm sure my good friend Crafty will be with us momentarily. We are coming at you from FEMA Region 1, as Crafty always likes to point out to you, in an ever-degrading police state of America, as we get closer and closer to being put into camps and prodded around and led around by the snout. I guess what I'll do is I'll go ahead and jump into what we would normally be doing at this stage, which is picking up from last week just to tie up any loose ends that we may have not touched on. Now, as you recall, our subject last week was atheism versus theism, which is a lovely, lovely topic, and both my co-host and I, we sort of took the side of atheism. Unfortunately, we didn't get any callers really going so hard on taking the other side, but maybe this week we'll have a little more mixing it up. We did have some great callers last week, though. Thank you, everybody. And once we get to that section in the show, the number that you're going to want to have is 646-668-8756. Again, that's 646-668-8756. And we do welcome your calls. We'll be getting to those a little later on in the show. So to pick up from last week's discussion on atheism versus theism, one of the things that I wanted to touch on and wanted to bring folks around to, we had talked a little bit about different things to think about if you, I addressed the religious community out there and said some things that I think they needed to hear, one of which, of course, is that, hey, you're 99% atheist. Remember that, of the 4,000 plus gods that have ever been out there, the only one you choose is the one that you have. So, I just pick one less God than you, and I think it's important to remember that everything that you think is an argument for your God, somebody else has the same exact argument for their God, really doesn't get us anywhere. But what I wanted to talk to you about in the leftover section here, I wanted to address kind of a way that we can think of how are we correct, how do we know that what we're saying is legitimate versus something that might be a little bit of personal bias. And I found a great way to test that recently. Well, not too recently, but we'll just say it's recently for the sake of argument. Here's the question that needs to be asked. All right, what would it take to convince you that you're wrong? Very simple question. What would it take to convince you that you're wrong? Well, as an atheist, I can tell you there are 1,000 things that would convince me that I'm wrong for being an atheist. Any piece of physical, tangible evidence for God. No, your book doesn't count. Your book is no more valid than anybody else's book. It was written by shepherds thousands of years ago who had no clue what was going on in the universe. Okay? But, I mean, if God really wanted you to trust in his existence, couldn't he leave a message in stone? Better yet, not just a message in stone, but how about message in stone that has no mass? Okay? Perfect way to convince me, all right? Miracles, okay? If there was ever any documented case of something that was, again, fully documented that defies science, any type of scientific explanation, apples falling upwards, something to that effect, anything like that, I would absolutely believe that there is something else out there that, again, could be a single prayer that works, okay? Pray for something that's not, that's impossible, okay? Pray for, I used to do this one to people all the time. Pray for a cheeseburger. Pray for a cheeseburger to materialize in front of you, okay? And people say, oh, it doesn't work like that. It has to be something important. Well, why don't you talk to the however many thousands of homeless people, probably millions of homeless people now that are out on the street as to how often they pray for a cheeseburger or something similar, and ask them how often they get it, okay? There are a million billion things that would convince me that I was wrong, that atheism is the wrong approach, okay?
Hello?
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 Hello, Crafty.
Adamizer, do you got me?
I got you now, yeah. Hey, welcome to the show.
God. Jesus.
Oh, give me just a quick second to finish up.
I don't know. Great. This is just, perfect. Apparently my microphone, I don't know, lights blue, all good. Haven't done anything. Haven't touched it since the last show, and it's not reading my microphone.
Oh, lovely. Isn't that lovely?
It wouldn't even let me, so I had to go and scramble and get the landline. So that's what I'm doing now, coming to you via the landline. I'm going to drop it, Adamizer. I'm not going to bring my frets up right now for the podcast, all right? I'm sure you handled it like a champ, and I'm sorry to do that to you, but, I guess these are the proverbial kinks that we're ironing out, huh?
Hey, it's what happens. What can you do?
Yeah, exactly. So I couldn't even hear you.
I'm not sure anybody could hear me, to be honest with you. I might have just been talking to myself for the last 10 minutes.
What was that?
I said, I'm not sure if anybody could hear me. I might have been talking to myself for the last 10 minutes. I honestly don't know.
Right. Let's see what people logging in, people logging out. Okay, no one said anything, but okay. Well, can I just take it from the top, Adamizer?
Go right ahead. I'll pick up what I was doing after you're done. Go ahead, do your thing.
All right. It helps me ease into the show, But, I'll try to improv a little bit here, but obviously, we are Crafty and the Adamizer coming to you live from FEMA Region 1. And, actually, speaking of that, I wish they came up with a little more sexy names for the FEMA regions, right? I mean, like even FEMA Region Alpha would have been nice. But, hey, a couple of quick things before before we really get going here is, number one, it's funny. I was thinking about it, and I don't think I have mentioned it once in, the intros especially, but at any time during the show. It was kind of the tagline of the show, which I think is pretty important, right? So, I wanted to start kind of getting in and starting that habit, which, of course, is conspiracy, maybe. Screwed, definitely. And although I think conspiracy obviously is going to be discussed here in the front row, it's by no means necessary. It's basically the cold, hard facts are well fucked up enough and leaves us with plenty to talk about. But, and other than that, the other thing that I usually got into the habit of saying, especially, during the beginning, the intro part of the show, was giving a big old front row F you. Huh? That's right, a big old front row FU, and that, of course, stands for Freaks Unite. And speaking of uniting, Adamizer, why don't we unite now and take this show away? The other thing, sorry, before you answer that, obviously, the front row at the Freak Show is sponsored by no one. And, I mentioned that last week, but I forgot to mention, who the Adamizer, if in his dream world, would have as a sponsor for the front row.
Ooh, that's a tough one. You know what I would love to see is anything associated with Professor Richard Wolff sponsoring us. So let me just run that down real quick. He's got his Economic Update podcast, which is great tie-in for today's subject. He has a couple of websites out there that people should check out, which is democracyatwork.info and richardwolff.com. That's two F's in Wolff, W-O-L-F-F. Excellent man, excellent speaker. If you get the chance, check out the YouTube video, Capitalism in Crisis, An Introduction to Marxism. Great takeoff, especially with the material that we're going to be doing today. Really helps you to understand comparing economic systems, which is something I'll be touching on later.
Fantastic. Awesome. And hopefully we do, in fact, get to that point where we are, picking sponsors, right? So, Anyway, all right. So, you know what? There was a couple of minutes thing that I was gonna hit on, but you know what? I don't think it's necessary. I just want to mention, last week, real quick. I'll try to summarize what I had here. Last week, obviously, great show, great callers. I think a great discussion that we had, and I want to thank everyone on the air for calling in and live chatting and all that stuff. But I got a little feedback during the week, Adamizer. Some good, saw a lot of good, but of course, people always focus on the negative, right? And a couple of people that were sensitive to my, if you remember my 3-gay tie story, the 3-gay tie man, which always kills me, right? But of course, where I thought I was kind of doing right by the gay community and trying to say, hey, everyone should be treated equally, and with regards to all the legal stuff, right? It should be. It shouldn't even be a discussion at this point, right? But I did make fun. I did have a little fun. I think I said the U.S. are gay. And that sort of thing. So naturally, people, want to focus on that. But I just did want to say that. As we go forward here, I would like to, just put it out there right now, right up front, that I am going to be making fun of everybody, And me, personally, I think that, let me just say, I love all the flavors of people, right? I think that shit is awesome. And I think our differences and making fun of them, having fun with them, is something that can and will bring us together. You know what I'm saying? The powers that be want us hating each other for our differences. No. Love ourselves for our differences, right? Embrace our differences. Right? It's fantastic stuff. That's what makes it all, in my opinion. And,
well, except Jews.
What's that?
Except Jews. No, hold on. We can't include the Jews in that.
It's funny how that's how it always transpires.
Love my Jewish friends.
I know, yeah. But no. Lastly, on the subject, I just think it's in the world of comedy, right, or stand-up comedy, I guess. It's generally accepted that you can make fun of your own, right? Gay comedians can tell gay jokes, and women comedians can tell women jokes, and black comedians. Well, for some reason, black comedians get to make fun of fucking everybody. So I guess there's an exception to every rule. But for the record, maybe some of you have seen my picture out there. I don't know. But either way, I just want to let you know that you might think I'm just a middle-aged, balding, little bit chubby white guy. However, my mother was actually a black Irish Italian Muslim lesbian hooker with a lisp. And my father was a Turkish Chinese Indian midget, born a rich Jew, and with a cleft palate, I might add, until he went into the armed forces, became a born-again Christian, and a traveling preacher. So I got the bases covered, man. I ain't just no ordinary white dude up here. So I hope I made myself clear. Fair enough?
I think that works.
All right. So we decided, Adamizer, that we were going to actually get in a little bit we decided to kind of change things up a little bit for this week and do a segment here up front and first called Front Row Leftovers, correct?
Yeah. Yes, that sounds good to me.
So, yeah, why don't we get into that? Let me first, let's first just take a little time out before we get into that. Take a time out for Station ID. It'll tell you all the ways you can get in touch with us. Actually, it has everything except the phone. So if you want to call into the show, please call 646-668-8756. And we'll come back right after this quick 30-second. If it'll play. Oh, I am having technical problems here. We'll play this.
What up, freaks? Hey, you're listening to Front Row at the Freak Show. Check us out at frontrowatthefreakshow.com, at Adamizer1, at The Freak Show, and, of course, Front Row at the Freak Show on YouTube and Facebook. Peace!
At the foothills of forever, I trip, fall into frustration again.
Are we going to get in trouble with YouTube on that one again?
No, we are not. I'm glad you asked, Adamizer. Glad you asked. That is actually a song that yours truly, Crafty, wrote. A friend of mine singing and playing the guitar. Yep, and he did all the music and actually made it a thing. But I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, that is a Crafty original.
Why
we might get in trouble with
come after us
later, but. We might get in trouble with them later in the show, but for that, at least, we are good. All right, Front Row Leftovers, obviously picking up on the putting a bow, I guess, is how I like to think of this from our last week topic. And do you mind, Adamizer, if I kind of like put you on the spot a little bit?
I love it. Go right ahead.
All right. So, and seriously, I'm not looking to Pearl Harbor you here at all, right? But I think the question is a good way to kind of get started on finishing up our discussion on religion, right? One of your last comments was about taking God out back to the woodshed. Actually, strike that. Woodshed my ass. You were looking for a shovel, a bag of lime, and a good place in the desert to hide the invisible man.
We got to kill that sadistic fuck, and we got to do it. I mean, if he exists, we got to hunt him down and kill him. You read the book, didn't you? He's a menace. He's a math.
All right. Well, hey, all right, fantastic. I mean, you clarified it for me because, just to have you know, we did get a couple emails into Crafty at the Front Row at thefreakshow.com, and, one of them wondered that, how can you ask us to, open our minds or change our minds by being so damn closed-minded with a statement like that?
Well, I'm very glad to hear that because it actually, I think it tangents well into what I was talking about. I started to jump in a little bit into the leftovers while I was killing time waiting for you to fix your microphone. And
right.
I think this segues very nicely.
Fully had something to do with.
Oh yeah. But I think this segues very nicely into what I was saying, and the way that you can tell whether or not you have an open mind or a closed mind, or the way that you can tell at least whether or not you're being biased, is to ask yourself one simple question: what would it take to prove me wrong? What would it take to convince me that I'm incorrect? Well, when it comes to the subject of atheism, I could list off a million billion things that would convince me that I'm wrong. Anything from God leaving a note on a massless tablet, to a prayer that actually works, for something impossible, prayer, for a miracle, something that defies the laws of physics. Somebody sits there, prays for it, and it happens. All sorts of things could prove to me that I was wrong, Any number
over the last 2,000 years.
Any number, again, there are, exactly,
right?
any piece of physical, tangible, undeniable evidence, not the scriptures, not the books. Everybody's got their little book, whether it's the Quran or the Bible or the Torah or whatever you have, the Dharmapada for the Buddhists, whatever it may be, not the book, not something that somebody wrote down, an actual piece of evidence. That's all it would take. But to turn that question around, and you tell me who's closed-minded on this, all right, what would it take for a God believer, whatever particular version of God you may choose, to believe that you're wrong, to be convinced that you're wrong? I have never, ever talked to one believer who could answer that question with anything but nothing would convince me that I'm wrong. I mean, even if, let's say you're a Christian, you believe in the Christian version of God, if Allah showed up and told you were wrong, I guarantee you the response is going to be, oh, it's just the devil in disguise.
Like dinosaur bones.
To convince them that they're wrong. So you tell me who's being closed-minded. I don't think it's me. I came to this conclusion through objectivity and through looking for evidence, not from assuming myself to be right and ignoring evidence. So I don't think I'm the closed-minded one there. My opinion.
No, I think you nailed it out of the park. You really did, Adamizer, as usual. Just so you freaks out there know, no way was that a planned response. I literally just threw that up the Adamizer's lap here live on the show. So a fantastic answer, and I couldn't put it better myself. And I guess in general, to kind of add on to what you were saying, but not specifically, I guess, with the topic at hand, but in more of a general sense, we're here to give our opinions, right? So I think there's an element of occupational hazard here, whether it's you, the Adamizer, myself, Alex Jones, or Howard Stern. We have to put it down. We have to put it out there, and we have to put up or shut up, But here, at least, I speak just for myself, and I'll probably have to say that I'll probably have to say this every now and again on the show, not just to remind all the freaks out there, but myself included, right? And that is, at least for me, I have more questions than answers, right? It's a big part of why the reason behind the show and the motivation for this show. Way more. Through all my life experiences, combined with, I'd say, the last real solid 5, 6, 7, 8 years dedicated to research into a lot of the stuff we'll be talking about, I've reached some general conclusions. And most definitely, I guess, I'm pointed in a certain way, but my ass is open. Wait, let me rephrase that. No.
See, now we're going to get more comments from the gays.
No, let me just give one quick example and one final thought. Our economic system, the Federal Reserve, money policy, all that. All I know for sure is that the shit is broke, right? broke, not working, and broke, ain't no money left. It's broke, corrupt, immoral, unjust, unfair, uneven, and understood by very few. How to fix the fucker, and I know we'll be broaching the subject tonight, but exactly what to replace it with, sure, I got some ideas, but this is where I want people to call, email, chat, and let's hear from you, because I am sure as shooting that there's a hell of a lot more smarter people than me out there on how to do that. So that's kind of how I approach that.
Makes sense to me. I mean, again, I look at it as my opinion, my conclusions, my whatever you want to call it, are as well informed and objective as I can possibly make them. Now, everybody thinks that about their own conclusions, but, again, if you feel you have evidence that disproves something that I'm saying, call us, write to us, contact us, let me know. If I'm wrong, I want to change my opinion,
right.
All right? And anybody who doesn't, anybody who would rather go right on being wrong in the face of evidence is just a fucking idiot. I'm sorry. What else are you going to say? Change. You got to change when the evidence presents itself to prove you're wrong. Otherwise, you're just being a stubborn jackass.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So outside of that, and as far as continuing to put a bow here on our religion topic, before we get to the scuttlebutt, was there anything that you felt that you missed last week that you wanted to mention? Obviously, you might have done so in the 10 minutes I was MIA, but again, anything you missed last week that you wanted to hit or hit but wanted to rephrase?
Again, just to drive the point home that, if you believe you're right, if you believe that not only is there a God, but your version of God is right, ask yourself, what would it take to convince you that you're wrong? And if the answer is nothing would convince me that I'm wrong, then you really need to re-examine your objectivity on the subject, because you don't have any. Agreed.
Absolutely. I guess never like to bring up the things that we don't have here, but once again, I'm feeling like, especially with what you just said, I'd love to be going to a Hitchens clip right now. So we're going to have to get a little piece about the late great Christopher Hitchens together and put it up on the site. So, but anyway, as far as myself and wrapping up the religion topic, I think a lot of people ask, what's the harm? Right? What's the harm if someone wants to have this belief or faith in God, etc.? And to that, I say none. Individually, if that's your thing, and you need that to get through your day, well, go for it. But it never really is an individual thing, right? Ultimately, groups of individuals get together, and before you know it, you got full-blown religion. And look, I'm not offended by the words, say, in God we trust, being on our money or in our courtrooms. I don't think they should be, but I'm not offended by it, as some people are. Whatever. I'm not offended by the word Christmas.
I am. I'm sorry. I am.
Offended is like again, I say they shouldn't be there, right? And I think there's full-on legitimate reasons, but like in a traditional sense, it's like Christmas, right? Christmas to me is the fat guy in the red suit coming down the chimney, and
keep your
my kids being like, "Oh, holy shit, magic happened last night," right? That's what Christmas is.
I find it offensive to see that kind of shit rammed down our throats by the government with the assumption that everybody's Christian. It offends me. It does. And I'm not easily offended. But when you start ramming that shit down our throats, when you're supposed, instead of doing the government's business like you're supposed to be doing and fucking that up the whole time, I do. I find it offensive. The government needs to stay the fuck out of the religion business. Stop putting shit on money. Stop putting shit in the Pledge of Allegiance, which is a friggin' indoctrination, brainwashing tactic anyway. And, just leave it alone. We're not all Christian. We're not all God believers. There's still 7 states in this country, where, as an atheist, you can't even run for office. This is what propagates that, is putting in God we trust on money and all this other shit, and this assumption that everybody has to believe in God. I mean, it does. It offends me.
Right.
What they do, putting that in children's heads, it bothers me. It bothers me. It's child abuse.
Well, again, and I hadn't really quite gotten to my punchline yet because.
Sorry, did I steal your thunder?
Well, I think offended is the wrong word, right? I don't take offense to it, right? I'm angered by a lot of it. And again, I don't think it should happen. Okay.
Yeah.
But for some of this trivial stuff, it is whatever, right?
It's a smaller fight. I agree with that.
Closer to offended and definitely more angered, certainly like when you said, or to give an example about what you said, if a president gets up there and says, as we're about to go to war and gives the reason for that phony war, and then he says, God bless America, what he is doing there, okay, is saying, my God bless America. Right? Yep. Because you can't have it both ways. You can't be saying, and may the general God, whichever one you believe, bless America. Right? That can't be. So he's getting up there and saying, may my God bless America.
Yep.
Okay? And I start, so with these things, again, my offense level goes up and the anger goes up with it. And to add on those, certainly things that, and we didn't get too much into it last week, but churches and religions getting things like tax exemptions, right? Why? I mean, drive through almost any town in this country, and who has the most primo piece of real estate in it? It's a church. But I have to pay more taxes because they don't pay any taxes at all? Like that.
Oh, yeah. No, and again, it's not believe me, it's not the biggest battle out there. There are much bigger battles. I agree, with everything that you're saying with regards to the bigger battles that are out there. And God bless America and friggin' churches everywhere. Absolutely, I agree with that. But, it's the little battles that pave the way for the big ones, I think, in a lot of cases. And, you got to get it all out of there, in my opinion. It's got to stop. We got to start.
Well, and again, so I certainly, and I know you touched on it already, and we did last week, but what I do really get offended is that indoctrination factor, right?
Right. Right, and every bit leads.
Certainly, can't we? Right. I mean, can't we at least agree, as a society or as a people or however you want to put it, that perhaps the greatest thing that we can teach and give our kids is the ability and desire to question the world around them in every way imaginable, and to not just accept things as the way they are, ask why or why not, and to never settle or be satisfied in their lifelong quest or individual journey for truth and understanding. Right? I mean, because it's exactly.
I agree. I absolutely agree, and that's what I find so offensive about religion is it's the opposite of that. It's authoritarian, and it says, "Don't you dare question this."
Right. Because this blind acceptance of not just the higher power, the Almighty God, but the bits and pieces of the Bible that you choose to cherry pick and to support the belief of your God. Later on, God simply gets substituted by or with the state or government, right? In the stories that we choose to cherry pick to support that belief. Believe in God, don't question it, support the church, and you'll be rewarded in heaven.
Yep.
Believe in the state, the military, don't ask too many questions, and you will be rewarded with safety and security, and maybe every now and then roads that are paved. And I'm sure some people are thinking, oh, Crafty, don't be so dramatic. It's not like that. But it is like that. It's exactly like that. Blind faith, man.
Oh, yeah.
And if your religion is all that you think it is, does all that you think it does, then when your child is all grown up, he or she should be logically able to come to that conclusion on their own, right? Why force it upon them before they can think or reason for themselves? And, last thing I'll kind of wrap it up with here is I heard a quote this week, and I didn't catch who said it. I'm pretty sure, I hear a lot of quotes, obviously, as I'm sure you do all week, and podcasts and everything else. I'm pretty sure the Alex Jones Show, but it wasn't Alex. But anyway, this guy said, Americans no longer have the right to ask, how did the German people allow Hitler and the Nazis to take control? How did they allow it? Well, we see exactly how they allowed it because we're allowing the exact same thing here.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't think it's that bad, you're simply not looking.
I think we need a station ID, my friend.
Yeah, you think we're up to that time? I think actually. What do you think? I think we've put the proper bow on our religion topic. What do you say we just? What do you say we just go right to our first break? That should. We'll do our first break, and then we'll get right into the scuttlebutt.
Sounds good to me.
Let me, first I actually do want to try to play promo 1 so we can give all the information on how to get in touch with us, and that was the one that didn't play.
Conspiracy, maybe. Screwed, definitely. Hey, you're listening to The Front Row at the Freak Show on blogtalkradio.com. For all things Freak Show, please visit us at frontrowatthefreakshow.com. Find us on Twitter, @Adamizer1 and @TheFreakShow, and of course, Front Row at the Freak Show on YouTube and Facebook. All right, you freaks be good now, you hear?
At the foothills of forever I trip, fall into frustration again.
All right, so our first break here is going to be by a gentleman we have already played here before, but it is just too fitting with our main topic and haranguing around to not play. And I am speaking of Lee Camp, and this is I first heard this. Do you want to call it a rant? In the documentary Owned and Operated. Have you ever seen that, Adamizer?
I don't believe I have.
Okay. Good, solid documentary. Which reminds me, I think we should do a kind of a whole podcast kind of reviewing documentaries. But that's aside.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, let me just take it away with Lee Camp here, and then we will come back with the Front Row Scuttlebutt. So for your enjoyment, Lee Camp on our financial system.
Our financial market actively rewards being a giant cunt, like a radioactive Ann Coulter who's grown to Godzilla proportions. Does that not freak anyone out?
Pfizer sales reps promoted it illegally for surgical pain in higher doses, uses the FDA had rejected due to safety concerns. Doctors responded. Instead of prescribing, say, ibuprofen at pennies a pill, they prescribed Bextra at nearly $3 a pill.
Sales were very good.
You might have heard of the Yes Men. They do social activism pranks on corporations. For example, last week they announced that General Electric, which uses loopholes to avoid taxes, was going to give back the $3.2 billion in refunds it got from the government. For another time, they told the media that Dow Chemical would finally be paying the victims of a massive chemical spill millions of dollars in restitution. For another time, they announced that director Michael Bay would be giving us all 2 hours of our lives back. So after these hoaxes, the corporations have to come out and go, oh, actually, that good thing you heard about, yeah, we're totally not doing that. No, not at all. Now, here's the interesting part. During the half hour when everyone thinks the hoax is true, the company's stock tumbles like crazy. GE lost billions. Dow lost billions. This means we've created a system where companies get massively punished for doing good things for humanity. So if a corporation announces it will constantly take over a 50-year-old locally owned company and fire all the employees, is given the financial equivalent of a high five and a reach around. If, on the other hand, it announces it will give free AIDS medications to dying people of Ghana, then Wall Street knocks it unconscious and draws the word queer on its forehead.
In this grainy seminar video posted on the file sharing site YouTube, a Pittsburgh law firm on how to use loopholes to ensure foreign workers can get the jobs instead of Americans.
And our goal is clearly not to find a qualified and interested U.S. worker.
Here's the thing. If Wall Street weren't around yet, would you create it to be this way? Would you say, let's make a financial system wherein companies are rewarded for being piping hot douche holes, and if one of them does something good for humanity, we'll treat that with suspicion. You announce you're going to pay the victims of a horrific oil spill? What are you, Sean Penn? You're a multinational. You can't go around caring about people. Could you imagine if every company did that? The whole system would break down. People would have food and clean water. There'd be fewer wars, death, and hardship. What kind of world would that be? Not one I want my trust fund babies to grow up in.
The Great Lee Camp, everybody. And, of course, you can find that on YouTube. Go ahead.
I was going to say I love Lee Camp, and I follow him on Twitter. I recommend everybody else does the same. He one of the best tweeters out there, one of the most creative and, I think, well-informed and well-decided individuals that you can listen to.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And his show is called Redacted Tonight on the RT network. And I think that's where that clip originated from. Again, I got it. I heard it first on the documentary Owned and Operated, but I'm sure that's a standalone piece from Lee somewhere along the line. So anyway, 646-668-8756. Please give us a call. The live chat room is starting to get a little bounce to it. The Changas have officially joined, which is fantastic. So, again, it's 646-668-8756. We are going to move along to the Front Row Scuttlebutt. And a little change up this week where we've been doing just a couple of stories each week. The Adamizer and I decided that we're going to give you a few more, but not spend quite as much time bantering on about them. But let's stay true to form, Adamizer. And how about you lead us off with the scuttlebutt?
Sure, why not? I got a few stories for us this week, and as you say, I'm not going to delve too deeply into them. Mainly going to focus on the headlines and the what's the tagline? Is that what it's called? A little bit below that, and let you all do your own research from there. First story I have comes to us from ips-dc.org. The title of which is Off the Deep End, the Wall Street Bonus Pool and Low-Wage Workers. Here's the tagline. The financial industry's 2014 bonuses were double the combined earnings of all Americans who work full-time at the federal minimum wage. Think about that. I don't think I really need to go much into that. Think about that. The article itself, very informative, a lot of great facts and statistics, highly recommended. Moving right on, okay? This one didn't load properly. All right, so we'll get back to that.
Sorry, you want me to pick up and we can do a little back and forth?
No, that's fine. I'm just refreshing the page on that one. I got the rest of them all loaded up here. Here's an interesting one, though. Comes to us from CNN.com, entitled How World Leaders' Salaries Stack Up, okay? And what they've done here is they've taken world leaders from not most of the major countries, but, about the top 12, and they've compared the salaries of the world leaders to each other. Not surprisingly, number one with a bullet is Barack Obama, getting $400,000 per year as his salary as President of the United States, But what's interesting here is if you look at the next one, the number 2, okay, is Stephen Harper of Canada with $260,000, okay, 400,000, and we drop down to 260,000. That's a pretty big gap right there. I realize we're supposed to be the big economic powerhouse, and maybe there's an argument that we should be paying our leader a bit more, but that's a big gap, man. That's an awfully big gap. I mean, that's
and there's a joke in there somewhere, but it's funny, and I'll just throw this at you. I guess I actually am a little bit surprised. I would think like a dictator like Kim Jong-un would be cutting the check to himself a lot higher.
Well, that may well be true, and it would probably not be on the books or public record, so maybe that sort of thing didn't quite make it into the article. I don't know for sure.
Right. And of course, as with all of these, this is just the official
this is
salary
what they
for the
released.
position.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
yeah.
right. It has nothing to do with all the insider trading and other revenue streams that are generated.
Yeah, so I should say that it does include their full political pay. So, like, for example, in England, we're also dealing with the pay. He gets 2 checks. He gets 1 check as the Prime Minister. He gets another for his role in Parliament. So it's the combined total of the 2. But even still, he's not even in, the top 4, maybe 5th here. But just real quick, I wanted to point out the German Chancellor, Angela Merkel, including her 2.2% pay raise, is only making $234,000 and change at number 3. And the one, David Cameron is number 5. But the one that I wanted to point out in particular was France. Okay, France would be an easy number 2 to the United States. Okay. The difference is the French president, Francois Hollande, he took a 30% pay cut the moment he stepped into office in 2012. Okay, were it not for that, he would be number 2 easily, still under 300,000, but number 2. And I'm just wondering when do our politicians start taking major pay cuts? Because it seems to me like they want to cut everything else.
Yeah.
And I'll let you read the rest of the article from there, but it's pretty interesting when you look at some of the facts and statistics they have in this article.
It is. I mean, it's not surprisingly my last point about it that not with the actual countries involved, except for the USA being number 1, but like our military spending, right? I mean, we're number 1, and the second, the next is way below. So,
right. Exactly. All right, now
proceed.
All right, this other one finally loaded here. It's an article from CNBC on entitled "How Old Man Winter Took Its Toll on Main Street Businesses." Okay, and what I found most interesting about this article is it talks about the major financial hit, especially up here in the Northeast, to businesses due to the particularly harsh winter with all the snow we've been getting, everything else. People haven't been, going to restaurants. They haven't been, they've been staying home, not filling up their tank as much, all sorts of things like this. And it really gives you some good numbers on that. What I found most interesting was that the optimism index of small and I think medium business owners is actually a little above where they expected it. Now, by a little, I mean a fraction of a point. But they're practically celebrating the fact that people have a positive outlook, and I'm just thinking, what the fuck does that even mean? Who cares? It's just it really doesn't mean anything. This is just the way people are hoping things go. So,
except for the fact that they're not paying attention.
Exactly. So, best of luck hitting those numbers, gentlemen. I certainly hope you make it there. And second to last thing I have for us is, of course, I'm up here in New Hampshire, and the wonderful Scott Walker was here, and over the weekend, and he was he wasn't doing a lot of public appearances. This was more checking in with his private investors and whatnot. But the one appearance he did make, the unions came out in force to let them know how they feel about him. And if anybody out there doesn't know who Scott Walker is, governor of Wisconsin, that is the most notorious union buster right now, loves this whole right to work bullshit, which, man, what a name, right to work, as a way to pay people less at the jobs. I never quite understood the marketing techniques and strategies that they employ here. But, he was up here. He's thinking about running for president. And, I was just really happy to see a lot of people come out and say their piece against him. Of course, he's also in a little bit of trouble for loosely comparing the union protesters that have been rallying against him with ISIS. When somebody asked him the question, how do you think how well do you think you'll do dealing with ISIS? And he said, well, if I can take on 100,000 protesters, I'm sure it won't be any issue taking on ISIS. So, yeah, good luck with that.
Right.
And you know what? I'll tell you this. I hope he gets the nomination because the man is fucking unelectable in a general election. The Republicans keep trotting out these extreme right-wing guys and gals that can't, you can't win the general election with that. If you put a Scott Walker up there or a Ted Cruz or a Rand Paul or any of these guys, what's going to happen is the other side is going to come out in droves to vote against you just to stop you from bringing these guys in who want to do nothing but cut taxes on the rich. So good luck with that. I hope Scott Walker gets the nomination. I really do.
And despite all that you said, I never believe in the lesser of two evils theory, or tagline or whatever you want to call it. But I can almost unequivocally say, and I don't know much about Scott Walker. I mean, the guy just coming out of the blue, right? And bam, and he's a front runner apparently. But just please, don't let it be Jeb Bush.
He's probably more electable in the general election.
Be able to take it.
Oh, yeah, the Bush dynasty. That would be interesting to see that continue going. I don't vote for Democrats or Republicans, but the Republicans are at least funny. You got to give them that. I get into this later in the show, but it's screw you one way or screw you the other way. We really need to end this whole two-party bullshit because, on all of the things that matter, they basically agree. They're all pro-capitalist. They're all pro-death penalty. They're all pro-Monsanto. And, you're really being offered a choice between Coke and Pepsi in a world where most people would rather have 7-Up, But
agreed.
Moving on to my last story that I have here, I thought this one was particularly interesting. Comes to us from the Huffington Post, and the headline is, a lot fewer, and I don't like the use of a lot, but a lot fewer Americans get unemployment benefits than you think. And excellent article, a lot of great statistics, the most impressive of which, or I should say depressive of which, is that as of December 2014, only 23% of jobless workers are receiving unemployment benefits. Less than 1 in 4 is actually getting unemployment benefits. The article, of course, attributes a lot of this to the Republican and right-wing cuts in unemployment benefits and other such, as they would say, entitlements. But really, it doesn't matter who you blame. It's a really sick statistic to think that less than 1 in 4 people who's out there out of work is actually getting unemployment benefits. Where's this country going? I think that's an excellent indicator, and I think we're in for a rocky road ahead if it's not rocky enough for you already. But that's what I got for you. And that's pretty much my story for the week.
Certainly, fantastic headlines, and actually, just thinking about it here real quick, I like the extending out of providing a few more headlines, because I think it really does give a and for each of us, obviously, I mean, we could go on and on just with headlines, right? This could be a headline show, and but it does give kind of a better picture of what we're in right now, right? And provides a few more things for the freaks out there to look up and follow. And great job as always, Adamizer. Let's just take a quick station ID here, and I will come back with my scuttlebutt right after this.
Conspiracy, maybe. Screwed, definitely. Hey, you're listening to The Front Row at The Freak Show on blogtalkradio.com. For all things Freak Show, please visit us at frontrowatthefreakshow.com. Find us on Twitter @Adamizer1 and @TheFreakShow, and of course, Front Row at The Freak Show on YouTube and Facebook. All right, you freaks be good now, you hear?
At the foothills of forever I trip, fall into frustration again.
What up, freaks? Hey, it's Crafty here with just a quick message for you. Hey, if you're thinking of getting a new pet, a dog or a cat, right? That's awesome. But don't be a douche about it. Don't go wasting money at those fancy pet stores that lots of times get their animals from those disgusting animal farms that keep them in tiny-ass cages and shit. No, check out your local humane society. Seriously, they got a whole bunch of furry friends to choose from that really need you to hook them up, and they get new ones all the time. So seriously, you will be so glad that you did and that you saved an animal versus supporting that other bullshit. So check them out, please. That's your local humane society. I'm Crafty. I'm out. Peace.
All right, and we're back. 646-668-8756. We will be going full-blown into the haranguing around rant on the economy and all things money, capitalism, communism, freakism, everything else. But certainly, if you do feel so inclined, give us a call. The number again is 646-668-8756. We've got a good chat room going right now, and but let's finish up with the scuttlebutt. And here's what I have for you. The first one, I think my first couple are actually pretty hot off the presses. This one coming from thehill.com and titled House Dems Angry Over Obama's Classified Trade Meetings. It's just a shining example of how, quote-unquote, normal we think this is. A story like this is going to get barely any attention at all, and it's simply preposterous that any laws, never mind mega, game-changing ones, like this trade agreement, which is, if you read the story, the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or something like Obamacare, are agreed to and passed in total secrecy. You remember, right? Nancy Pelosi getting up there, you have to pass it to find out what's in it. What the fuck is that? I tell you, freaks, this TPP is bad news. Please look into it and see for yourselves. Forget we the people being privy to it. Even our elected officials are shut out. It is so sick and ludicrous and has to change. And on the heels of that, the next story is another fine case in point coming from the USA Today. And this one was titled White House FOIA Regulations Deleted. And a quote actually from the USA Today, the White House is removing a federal regulation that subjects its Office of Administration to the Freedom of Information Act, making official a policy under Presidents Bush and Obama to reject requests for records to that office. It just boggles my mind, Adamizer. We, the United States of America, need a law. Right, just in the first place, we need a law, an act for the freedom of information in the friggin' first place. But again, just your everyday run-of-the-mill tyranny and abuse of power that we're completely numb to around here, right? And it's just so poetic, of course, that this is the Obama administration that's officially doing this, right? Mr. Transparency, Mr. Constitutional Lawyer. Hey, Barry, any more transparent and you'd be a brick fucking wall. And is it any wonder why, here comes headline 3 from the Associated Press, that major survey finds record low of confidence in our government. Yeah, gee, you think? That's bizarro world for you. We have zero faith in our elected leaders, but we'll keep electing them over and over and over again. How long have some of these scumbag, millionaire pieces of shite been in office? Forget it. To the next. All right, so this second to last one here was actually a headline from a few weeks back, and it's a couple different places. I got the article actually via a Facebook post on my personal page from someone of my not necessarily a friend, but Facebook friend. And the story comes to you from military.com, titled Air Force Reservists Suicide Brings Home Tragedy. And as I said, I saw it because of one of my Facebook friends on the personal page. And I have a couple of quick thoughts here. First of all, the gist of the article is this girl who was an Air Force Reserve captain and had everything going on for her. And she offed herself. Quote right from the article, at 30, brunette, that was her last name, not her hair color, seemingly had it all, a vivacious and attractive athlete and scholar that had been lauded by the Air Force for her work in Afghanistan, was a partner in a fitness center about to open in Largo, and was known by her family and friends as being the strong one, always ready to help others. But for some reason, brunette, who left active duty after 11 years of last June and joined the Air Force Reserve, couldn't help herself. What's remarkable to me is that the friends and family suggest that she did this because something happened to her, over there, as in she was assaulted. And it's pretty clear from the article that they mean sexually. So it's again just so, I don't know, mind-boggling. It's the only word I can come up with, I guess, right now. But there's 22 vets committing suicide every single day. 22. Think of that number. But friends and family of this girl think that she suicided because she was assaulted over there. Okay, maybe. I'm not saying it didn't happen. But what about the other 21 a day, right? Is it maybe, just maybe, that they're all seeing up close the lies and crimes against humanity, the endless, purposeless devastation? Naturally, the article doesn't bother asking that question. And last point, and this is just so infuriating, is the same person, the same Facebook person who posted this article. Her very next post was about how great Delta Airlines is because they honored a fallen soldier and his fucking dog. I kid you not. Keep sipping the frickin' Kool-Aid. All right. Final. Scuttlebutt from me. You freaks have to check this out. And I can't wait for the show that me and the Adamizer do when we can actually tackle the whole UFO thing. Okay? But seriously, listen to this.
Are we going to do that?
This comes from... Oh, yeah, we're doing it. And you're not calling in sick that day.
All right.
Well, listen to the article. I mean, listen to my thing here. All right. This came from a woman. Her name is Linda Moulton Howe, and her website is earthfiles.com. And I heard her actually on a Josh Tolley podcast this past week talking about the story. But basically, it's the first time in history the government, our government, has granted a soldier disability from an incident that involved a UFO encounter. It's a lot of it obviously classified and everything else, but I mean the incident itself is officially kind of recorded as a UFO incident, and this is actually pretty big shit. And you got to read the whole story, or again, check out Josh Tolley on YouTube, and you'll see the podcast there. But the whole thing is nuts, right? I mean, it involves a pretty well-known incident, at least in UFO circles, or should I say crop circles. But no, the Rendlesham Forest, 1980. It's obviously too much to get into here, but what I kind of want to use this story as is a foundation from at least where I can stand here in the front row and, get the foundation for the whole UFO thing, and that is that there's friggin' something here, Adamizer, okay? Obviously, with your quip, maybe you don't believe so, but there is something there, and shit needs to be answered. Hey, I think 99.9% of the shit that is reported and observed or labeled UFO is bullshit. But that 0.1% is friggin' huge. Because here's the rub. Either shit has landed here, made contact, whatever, or we are, in fact, in the possession of technology and energy and science that's 50 or 100 years ahead of what we think is cutting edge today. Kind of period, end of story. Right there. And either one of those scenarios is, of course, huge. What's that?
I was going to say I tend towards option B there, though I don't, again, I'm not closed-minded. I don't rule anything out.
I do too.
But I think,
I do too, but
it's a tough subject. I mean, I feel like, if we are being visited, I think, why is it so? Yeah, I guess either they would do a better job of being covert, or they wouldn't be covert at all. And what is so interesting about us in the first place, aside from how fucked up we are? I mean, is it like studying the dung beetle? I don't know. Right.
No, hey, man, look, solid questions. And I've had different levels of interest and perspective on the entire UFO thing, right? But again, I just keep coming back to something is there, right? I mean, there's just, like with this guy, right? It's one of, there have been a few others, but his entire, and why it kind of even got to the point where this story was a story now was because his medical information, his medical charts, his medical records were classified by the government. And it happens, like, JFK was one, right? I mean, it only has happened a couple of times. And then, so just this, Joe Schmo, regular guy, he was a captain, what have you. And again, you got to read the story. 45 minutes of down communication. I mean, this guy says he actually touched the craft, or one of the guys that was with him touched the craft. All sorts of crazy shit. But again, I mean, classified medical records, all this other stuff, and I'm not going to keep going on too much about it, but to kind of answer and come back around to your thing I agree too. I mean, for the most part, I think it's all us, right? It's all our technology. But if that's the case, man, you know, even that story alone and by itself, right? I mean, you know, we're talking about different forms of energy and propulsion and stuff that's off the charts, huge. So that's why I find it all interesting.
Yep. No, I just,
and
again,
there you have it.
I default back to Occam's razor to say that the simpler explanation, which again to me is that you know, they're developing this shit and just not telling us about it because it's all military, it's all classified. That to me seems the simpler explanation, and so I go with that.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, on certain levels, I don't have a problem with that. Right. Military secrets and all that. But if we're talking different forms of energy and propulsion, well, you know, and they're keeping it from us, right? Then we have some problems.
Yep.
I mean, right?
Yep.
Can we at least agree on that?
Yep.
All right.
High agreement on that.
Fantastic.